In the vast expanse of the galactic empire, where dragonborn royalty ruled over countless star systems with iron claws and ancient magic, one truth remained absolute. Humans were considered the weakest, most disposable species in the known universe. They served as slaves, servants, and cannon fodder, nothing more than soft-skinned creatures barely worthy of notice. But what happens when a most powerful dragon emperor in the galaxy, fresh from crushing a rebellion that should have taken decades to quell, returns to his palace early, only to discover that his seemingly fragile human Maid has accomplished something that defies everything the Empire believes about her kind? What he finds will shake the very foundations of galactic civilization and prove that sometimes the greatest strength comes from the most unexpected source. Sometimes the prey becomes the predator, and sometimes humans don't just survive against impossible odds. They thrive, innovate, and show the universe exactly why their species refuses to bow down to anyone. The Dragon Emperor thought he knew everything about power. He was about to learn that he knew nothing at all about the sleeping giant he had kept as a servant. The massive obsidian warship Eternal Flame materialized above the capital planet of Dracarys Prime 3 months ahead of schedule. Its sleek hull, scarred from countless battles across the Andromeda Spiral, cast a shadow over the sprawling crystal spires of the Imperial Palace below. Emperor Vorthak the Destroyer folded his massive wings as he stepped onto the transport pad, his golden scales gleaming under the artificial suns that lit the palace courtyard. At 12 feet tall and weighing nearly 2 tons, Vorthak cut an imposing figure even among his own dragonborn kind. His horned head turned slowly as he surveyed his domain, crimson eyes glowing with satisfaction. The rebellion in the Outer Rim had crumbled faster than expected. What should have been a grueling campaign lasting years had taken mere months thanks to his tactical brilliance and overwhelming force. "Your Imperial Majesty," Grand Admiral Zephix bowed deeply, his blue scales shimmering as he approached. "We did not expect your triumphant return for another season. The palace staff has had 3 months to maintain my domain in my absence." Vorthak interrupted, his voice a low rumble that made the ground vibrate. "I trust everything has proceeded according to protocol." Admiral Zephix hesitated for just a moment, barely perceptible, but Vorthak caught it. The Emperor's eyes narrowed. "Speak." "There have been irregularities, Your Majesty. Nothing threatening to Imperial security, but the human servant assigned to your personal quarters has been active." Vorthak snorted, a small puff of smoke escaping his nostrils. "Active? What could a human possibly do that would be worth mentioning? Has she broken something valuable?" "No, Cide. Quite the opposite." Zephix pulled out a crystal data pad, his claws clicking against its surface. "Perhaps it would be better if you observed the situation personally." The Emperor's massive form moved through the palace corridors with surprising grace. Dragonborn nobles and various alien courtiers pressed themselves against the walls as he passed, offering deep bows and nervous greetings. But Vorthak's mind was elsewhere. What could a human, a member of the weakest species in the known galaxy, have possibly done to cause such concern among his staff? Humans were useful for only the most menial tasks. Their fragile bodies couldn't handle heavy labor like the rock-skinned Granitians. They lacked the intellectual capacity of the Mindari Collective, and their lifespans were laughably short compared to most galactic species. They were kept around primarily because they were easy to replace and required minimal resources to maintain. The human assigned to his quarters, he struggled to remember her name, had been selected specifically for her unremarkable nature. Small, quiet, efficient at basic cleaning tasks, and smart enough to follow simple orders without requiring constant supervision. The perfect invisible servant. As he approached his private wing of the palace, Vorthak noticed something unusual. The corridor was busier than normal. Maintenance drones hovered near the walls, their sensors actively scanning. Energy readings flickered across data screens that hadn't been there when he left. Most strangely, several of his technical advisors, highly intelligent cerebralites with their massive, pulsing brain cases, were huddled around portable equipment, their tentacle fingers dancing over complex calculations. What is the meaning of this? Vorthak demanded. Chief Technical Advisor Mindros turned, his translucent headcase glowing with agitation. Your Imperial Majesty, we have been monitoring an anomalous energy signature emanating from your quarters. We initially suspected sabotage or some form of alien technology, but our investigations have revealed something far more unexpected. The massive doors to Vorthak's chambers hissed open, and the Emperor stepped inside, his advisors following nervously behind. What he saw made him stop dead in his tracks. The room was exactly as he had left it. Almost. His massive sleeping platform remained in its proper place. His collection of conquered weapons still hung on the walls in perfect order, and his treasure alcoves showed no signs of disturbance. But there was something else, something that shouldn't exist. Floating 3 feet off the ground in the center of the room was a perfect sphere of crackling energy about the size of a dragon's head. It pulsed with a soft blue light, and complex mathematical equations seemed to dance just beneath its surface like living things. The sphere rotated slowly, and, as it did, Vorthak could see that it was somehow generating gravity. Dust particles in the air were being drawn into perfect orbital patterns around it. But that wasn't the most shocking part. The most shocking part was the small human female standing beside it, wearing a simple servant's uniform and holding what appeared to be a hand-built control device made from salvaged palace electronics. Oh! The human noticed his arrival and quickly set down her device, dropping into a deep bow. Your Imperial Majesty, you've returned early. I can explain. For several long moments, Vorthak simply stared. His mind, trained in military strategy and political maneuvering, struggled to process what he was seeing. A human, had somehow created what appeared to be a controlled gravity field using nothing but spare parts from around the palace. Explain, he said finally, his voice carefully neutral despite the chaos in his thoughts. The human, Elena, he remembered now, straightened nervously. She was small even by human standards, perhaps 5.5 feet tall, with brown hair pulled back in a practical ponytail and intelligent green eyes that seemed too bright for someone of her supposed limited capabilities. While performing my duties, Your Majesty, I noticed inefficiencies in the palace's energy distribution system. The power grid was experiencing fluctuations that seemed wasteful. I thought perhaps I could find a way to stabilize them. And this? Vorthak gestured with one massive claw toward the floating sphere. Elena's cheeks flushed slightly, a byproduct of my initial experiments. I discovered that by redirecting certain energy frequencies through modified crystalline matrices, components I found in storage rooms, I could create localized gravitational fields. This particular configuration generates approximately 0.3 standard gravities and could theoretically be scaled up significantly. The silence in the room was deafening. Chief Advisor Mindros made a strangled sound that might have been surprise or terror. Admiral Zephyx had gone completely still, his blue scales pale with shock. Scaled up? Vorthak asked slowly. Yes, Your Majesty. With access to proper materials and more sophisticated equipment, I believe it would be possible to create gravity fields strong enough to, well, theoretically strong enough to crush enemy ships or even affect planetary bodies. Vorthak felt something he hadn't experienced in centuries: genuine surprise. What this human was describing so casually was advanced gravitational manipulation technology. The kind of technology that the Empire's best scientists have been trying to develop for millennia. The kind of technology that could revolutionize warfare, space travel, and planetary engineering. And she had built a working prototype in his bedroom using spare parts. Ow! The word came out as barely more than a whisper. Elena blinked in confusion. How what, Your Majesty? How did you know how to build this? How did you solve problems that the Empire's greatest minds have struggled with for generations? The human looked genuinely puzzled by the question. I observed the existing systems and analyzed their inefficiencies. The solutions seemed logical. I thought perhaps your own scientists had simply overlooked these approaches because they were focused on more complex methodologies. Show me, Vorthak commanded. For the next hour, Elena walked the Emperor and his increasingly agitated advisors through her work. She had somehow intuited principles of quantum mechanics that took most species decades of study to understand. Her improvised control systems demonstrated an understanding of energy manipulation that bordered on the supernatural. Most impossibly, she had done it all while maintaining her regular duties as a servant, working on her projects only during her off hours and in complete secrecy. Why didn't you report this to the palace administration? Admiral Zefix demanded. Unauthorized technological development is strictly forbidden. Elena looked confused again. I didn't think it was significant enough to warrant official attention. I was merely trying to improve efficiency. Besides, humans aren't typically consulted on technical matters. The understated nature of her response made the achievement even more staggering. She had revolutionized gravitational physics as a side project and considered it barely worth mentioning. Vorthak found himself studying the human with new eyes. Elena moved around her improvised laboratory with quiet confidence, explaining complex concepts in simple terms, treating revolutionary discoveries as minor improvements. Her servant's uniform seemed almost absurd now, like putting a royal crown on a maintenance drone. Your Majesty, Chief Advisor Mindros approached carefully. If we could have our top scientists examine this technology. No, the Emperor's response was immediate and firm. This remains classified at the highest levels. Elena, he turned to the human, who straightened nervously. You will continue your work, but with proper resources. I want a full report on your capabilities and your ideas. Of course, Your Majesty. Should I relocate my equipment? Vorthak looked around his chambers, at the floating sphere of impossible energy, at the crude but brilliant control systems, at the human who had accomplished in months what the Empire scientists couldn't achieve in centuries. No, he said slowly. I think you should stay exactly where you are. As the various advisors filed out of the chamber, muttering among themselves in a dozen different languages, Vorthak remained behind. He studied Elena as she carefully adjusted settings on her gravitational device, her movements precise and confident. Everything he thought he knew about the natural order of the galaxy had just been challenged by a small human with spare parts and too much curiosity. The question now was what this meant, not just for him, but for the entire galactic empire. Outside the palace windows, the sons of Dracarys Prime continued their eternal dance, unaware that the foundations of established power had just shifted in ways that would reshape the very stars themselves. 3 days after his return, Emperor Vorthak found himself doing something unprecedented in his 3,000-year reign, personally overseeing the daily activities of a human servant. Elena had been provided with a proper laboratory space adjacent to his chambers, but she continued to work with the same quiet efficiency that had allowed her to revolutionize physics without anyone noticing. Your Majesty, Admiral Zephyx approached the observation deck where Vorthak stood watching Elena through a transparent aluminum wall. The Imperial Science Council has submitted their preliminary analysis of the human's work. Vorthak accepted the crystal data pad without taking his eyes off Elena. She was currently suspended 3 feet off the ground, held aloft by a localized gravity field while she fine-tuned energy flows in what had once been a storage closet and was now housing technology that defied conventional understanding. Their conclusions? He asked. They're skeptical. The mathematical principles she's employing are theoretically sound, but according to their calculations, her methods should be impossible with the materials she's using. Several council members have suggested that she might be receiving external assistance. The Emperor's eyes narrowed. External assistance from whom? She's been under surveillance since my return. Every moment of her day is monitored. That's what makes it so disturbing, Your Majesty. If she's truly working alone. Zephyx paused, clearly uncomfortable with the implications. The Council has requested permission to conduct a full neurological examination. They want to understand how a human brain could process information at this level. Vorthak finally turned away from the window. Denied. Sir, I said denied. Elena is not a laboratory specimen. She's... The Emperor paused, searching for the right word. What was she? Technically still a servant, but one who is rapidly redefining the boundaries of Imperial technology. She's under my direct protection. Through the transparent wall, Elena's voice reached them as she spoke to her anti-grav platform. Just a little higher. Perfect. Now, if I adjust the harmonics. The platform responded instantly to her vocal commands, demonstrating a level of intuitive interface that the Empire's best programmers struggled to achieve with years of training. Your Majesty, a new voice interrupted. Commander Raxos, head of Imperial Intelligence, approached with his usual predatory grace. His black scales absorbed light like a void, and his silver eyes gleamed with calculation. We've completed our investigation into the human's background, and she was captured during a raid on a human colony of New Terra 7 years ago. Before that, she was listed as a hydroponics technician in the colony records. No formal education in physics, engineering, or any of the sciences she's now demonstrating mastery over. Vorthak felt that unusual sensation of surprise again. Hydroponics? Plant cultivation? Yes, Your Majesty. Apparently, she was responsible for maintaining food production systems in underground bunkers. Her supervisors rated her as adequate but unremarkable. Elena had moved to a new device, something she'd started building that morning. It looked like a tangle of crystalline fibers and metal conduits, but as Vorthak watched, patterns of energy began flowing through it in impossibly complex helical structures. Whatever she was creating seemed to bend light around itself, creating optical effects that made his eyes water. There's more, Raxos continued. We've accessed the historical records of New Terra. During the final siege of the colony, there were reports of anomalies, defensive systems that shouldn't have existed. Energy barriers that held off our assault forces longer than should have been possible with their known technology. You think Elena was responsible? The timeline matches. The colony held out for 6 months against overwhelming odds. Our tactical assessments predicted they should have fallen within weeks. Admiral Zephyx shifted nervously. Your Majesty, if humans are capable of this level of technological innovation. He didn't need to finish the sentence. The implications were staggering. The Galactic Empire was built on the assumption of dragon-born superiority. Their technology, their military might, their right to rule. All of it was predicated on being the most advanced species in known space. If humans could match or exceed their capabilities. Have there been other incidents? Vorthak asked quietly. Raxos consulted his datapad. We're investigating similar anomalies across several human colonies that showed unexpected resistance. Most were attributed to external aid or simple luck, but now we're wondering if we've been underestimating an entire species for centuries, the Emperor finished. Through the laboratory wall, Elena was humming softly as she worked. The sound was pleasant, almost musical, and it seemed to help her concentrate. She had no idea that the most powerful beings in the galaxy were discussing her species' potential to overthrow the established order. Your Majesty, Admiral Zephix said carefully, what are your orders regarding the human? Vorthak considered the question. The safe response would be to have Elena examined, her technology confiscated, and all research classified at maximum security levels. Standard protocol demanded that any potential threat to imperial supremacy be neutralized immediately. But as he watched Elena solve problems that had stumped his best scientists for generations, treating each breakthrough as a minor curiosity rather than a revolutionary achievement, he realized that standard protocols were inadequate for this situation. Double her laboratory space, he commanded. Provide her with any resources she requests. And I want daily reports on her progress. Sir, the Council will object. The Council, Vorthak said with quiet authority, answers to me. As do you. The next several hours were spent in a series of increasingly tense meetings. The Imperial Science Council demanded access to Elena's work. The military high command wanted her technology weaponized immediately. The noble houses began raising questions about the implications of human intelligence for the Empire's social structure. Through it all, Vorthak found himself returning to the observation deck, watching Elena work. She had moved on to yet another project, something involving crystalline matrices that seemed to phase in and out of visible existence. Her notes, when he reviewed them, were written in simple language but described concepts that pushed the boundaries of known physics. As evening fell across Dracarys Prime, Elena finally emerged from her laboratory, looking slightly tired but satisfied with the day's progress. She approached the Emperor with the same respectful manner she'd always shown, apparently unaware that she was now the subject of empire-wide debate. Your Majesty, I wanted to thank you for the additional space and resources. The improved conditions have allowed me to complete several experiments I'd been planning. What have you accomplished today? Vorthak asked. Elena's eyes lit up with enthusiasm. I've been working on dimensional folding technology. Nothing major, just small-scale experiments in spatial compression. I managed to create a storage unit that's larger inside than outside by approximately 30%. It's not much, but I think with refinement, the concept could be quite useful. Dimensional folding, spatial compression. She was describing technology that could revolutionize everything from cargo transport to military logistics, and she presented it as a minor success. Show me, Vorthak commanded. Elena led him to a device that looked like an ordinary storage container, perhaps 3 feet on each side. When she opened it, Vorthak found himself looking into a space that was clearly much larger than the external dimensions should allow. The walls seemed to stretch away into impossible distances. The energy requirements are still quite high, Elena explained, making adjustments to external controls. And there are stability issues that need to be resolved. But the basic principle works. I estimate that with proper development, we could create storage or living spaces with compression ratios of 10 to 1, possibly higher. Vorthak stared into the impossible space, his mind reeling. In one day, this human had achieved what his scientists had deemed impossible. The applications were endless. Ships could carry supplies for journeys lasting centuries. Entire cities could be built within the space of a single building. Military forces could be deployed with equipment capabilities previously unimaginable. Elena, he said slowly, where do these ideas come from? She looked puzzled again by the question. I'm not sure I understand, Your Majesty. They're just logical solutions to obvious problems. When I see inefficiencies or limitations, my mind automatically begins working on ways to address them. And these solutions just occur to you naturally? Well, yes. Doesn't everyone think this way? The innocent question hit Vorthak like a physical blow. Elena genuinely believed that her level of intuitive genius was normal for her species. She had no idea that she was demonstrating capabilities that exceeded the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy. Elena, he said carefully, tell me about other humans you knew on New Terra. Were there others who thought about problems the way you do? Oh, certainly. My friend Marcus was brilliant with defensive systems. He could look at any fortification and immediately see how to improve its efficiency by factors of 10 or more. And Sarah had an intuitive understanding of energy systems that was remarkable. She could optimize power grids just by observing them for a few minutes. Elena's casual description of her fellow colonists painted a picture that sent ice through Vorthak's veins. She was describing not one exceptional human, but an entire colony of individuals with capabilities that rivaled or exceeded the Empire's best specialists. What happened to your friends during the siege? Elena's expression grew sad. Many were lost when the colony fell, but some were taken as servants, like me. Marcus was assigned to maintenance duties on a military station, I believe. Sarah was sent to work in the power plants on Kepler Station. Vorthak's mind raced. How many humans with exceptional capabilities were currently serving as menial laborers throughout the Empire? How many revolutionary technologies were waiting to be discovered by individuals who believed they were only fit for the most basic tasks? Your Majesty, Elena continued, I hope my work hasn't caused any inconvenience. I realize that my improvements might be disruptive to established procedures. Disruptive. She called the potential overthrow of galactic technological supremacy disruptive. As Vorthak looked into Elena's intelligent, concerned eyes, he realized that the war he'd just won in the Outer Rim was the least of his concerns. The real challenge to his empire wasn't coming from rebellious colonies or rival civilizations. It was standing right in front of him, wearing a servant's uniform and apologizing for revolutionizing the laws of physics. Emperor Vorthak spent the night in his private study, surrounded by intelligence reports that painted an increasingly disturbing picture. Commander Raxos had worked with unprecedented speed to investigate human servants throughout the Empire, and the results challenged everything the Dragon-born civilization believed about the Galactic Order. At dawn, Elena arrived for her daily work routine, finding the Emperor already waiting in her laboratory. She seemed surprised, but not alarmed by his presence. Your Majesty, you're up early. I hope my late-night experiments didn't disturb your rest. I was working on acoustic dampening fields to minimize any sound disruption. Acoustic dampening fields. Another impossible technology casually mentioned as if it were a simple courtesy. Elena, Vorthak began carefully. I want you to help me with something. I need you to review some personnel files and tell me what you see. He handed her a datapad containing profiles of human servants throughout the Imperial fleet. Elena accepted it with curiosity, scrolling through the information with the same focused attention she brought to her scientific work. These are employment records, she observed. Humans working in various support roles throughout the Empire. Is there something specific you'd like me to analyze? Look at their assigned duties and tell me what you notice. Elena studied the files for several minutes, her brow furrowing in concentration. Well, there are some significant inefficiencies in task allocation. For instance, this individual, Marcus Chun, is listed as a maintenance worker on Battle Station Omega, but his background indicates expertise in defensive systems. He's being used to clean corridors when he could be optimizing shield generators. She continued scrolling. Sarah Williams is working in a power plant custodial division, but her experience suggests she could revolutionize their entire energy distribution system. James Rodriguez is scrubbing floors on a research station when his profile indicates he has an intuitive understanding of propulsion mechanics that could advance your fleet's capabilities by generations. Elena looked up from the data pad with genuine concern. Your Majesty, forgive me for saying so, but the Empire seems to be dramatically underutilizing human resources. These people are being assigned tasks that waste their capabilities. Vorthak felt that familiar sensation of having his worldview shaken. Elena was looking at a list of what his administration considered properly assigned menial laborers and seeing a collection of genius-level specialists whose talents were being completely ignored. Elena, what would happen if these individuals were given opportunities to work in areas matching their capabilities? She considered the question seriously. Based on what I see here, the improvements could be substantial. Marcus alone could probably increase Battle Station Omega's defensive capabilities by orders of magnitude. Sarah could solve the chronic power inefficiencies that plague most Imperial facilities. And James, she paused, looking thoughtful. James could probably design propulsion systems that would make your current fleet look primitive. And this would seem normal to you? Humans making these kinds of contributions? Elena blinked in confusion. Normal? Your Majesty, wouldn't it be abnormal to waste such obvious potential? Any rational system would want to utilize its resources efficiently. Commander Raxos chose that moment to arrive, his black scales gleaming as he approached the Emperor. Your Majesty, we've located the human Marcus Chun that appears in those files. He's currently assigned to Battle Station Omega, just as the records indicated. Contact the station commander, Vorthak ordered. I want to speak with this Marcus immediately. Within minutes, the holographic image of Station Commander Drex materialized in the laboratory. The massive purple-scaled, dragonborn military officer looked puzzled by the unexpected communication from the Emperor himself. Your Imperial Majesty, how may Battle Station Omega serve? Commander Drex, you have a human maintenance worker named Marcus Chun. I want to brought to your command center immediately. Sir, the human? I assure you, if there's been some disciplinary issue, there's been no disciplinary issue. Just bring him. Several minutes passed before Marcus appeared in the hologram, flanked by nervous guards. He was a tall, lean human with graying hair and intelligent eyes that darted around the command center with obvious curiosity. Elena gasped softly when she saw him. Marcus, you're alive. Her joy was evident, and Marcus's face lit up with equal happiness at seeing her. Elena, I can't believe. Are you well? Are they treating you properly? I'm fine. Marcus. More than fine. But what about you? Are you being given opportunities to work on defensive systems? Marcus looked confused. Defensive systems? Elena, I'm assigned to corridor maintenance. I clean floors and empty waste dispensers. Elena turned to Emperor Vorthak with an expression of genuine distress. Your Majesty, this is exactly the kind of inefficiency I was describing. Marcus has an extraordinary understanding of defensive technologies. He's being wasted on menial tasks. Commander Drex, Vorthak addressed the hologram. Describe your station's current defensive capabilities. Standard Imperial configuration, Your Majesty. Type: 7 shield generators, plasma cannon arrays, reinforced hull plating. We meet all basic defensive requirements for a Class B battle station. Marcus, the Emperor turned to the human. If you were to examine Commander Drex's defensive systems, what would you see? Marcus looked nervous, clearly uncertain whether this was some kind of test or trap. Your Imperial Majesty, I'm not qualified to comment on Imperial military technology. Answer the question as if you were qualified. Marcus glanced at Elena, who nodded encouragingly. He took a deep breath and looked around the command center visible in the hologram. Well, if I had to guess, I'd say your shield generators are probably operating at about 60% efficiency. The placement of those power conduits suggests significant energy loss through electromagnetic interference. Your plasma cannons are probably effective enough, but the targeting systems look like they're using predictive algorithms that could be improved by at least 40%. And the whole configuration, he paused, studying what he could see of the station structure. The whole configuration is optimized for frontal assault, but vulnerable to coordinated multi-vector attacks. The silence that followed was deafening. Commander Drex stared at Marcus with an expression of shock that was visible even through the hologram. Everything Marcus had identified in a few minutes of observation matched classified problems that the station's engineering teams had been struggling with for years. How? Commander Drex whispered. How could you possibly know that? Marcus looked embarrassed. I observe things while I work. I can't help but notice inefficiencies. I thought perhaps your engineers were aware of these issues, but had reasons for not addressing them. Marcus, Elena interjected excitedly. Show them what you did on New Terra. Tell them about the defensive modifications. Elena, I don't think. Please, Marcus. They need to understand. Marcus looked increasingly uncomfortable, but continued. During the siege of New Terra, I made some modifications to our defensive systems. Nothing major. I just noticed that by reconfiguring the shield harmonics and redistributing power flow patterns, we could extend our defensive capabilities significantly. How significantly? Vorthak asked. Our original estimates suggested we could hold out for maybe 2 weeks against Imperial forces. After my modifications, we lasted 6 months. The statement hit the command center like a physical blow. Commander Drex actually stepped backward, his eyes wide with disbelief. 6 months. A ragtag colonial defense system had held off Imperial forces for 6 months because one human had noticed some inefficiencies. Commander Drex, Emperor Vorthak said quietly, you will immediately reassign Marcus Chun to your Chief Engineering Division. Give him full access to your defensive systems and implement any improvements he suggests. Your Majesty, military protocols are superseded by Imperial directive. Do you understand? Yes, Your Imperial Majesty. After the communication ended, Elena turned to Vorthak with bright, eager eyes. Your Majesty, this is wonderful. Marcus will finally be able to work on projects that interest him. And if you apply this same principle throughout the Empire. She trailed off, apparently struck by a sudden realization. What is it? Vorthak asked. Your Majesty, how many humans are currently serving in the Empire? And how many are assigned to duties below their capabilities? Commander Raxos consulted his datapad. Current estimates place the human population at approximately 50 million individuals across all Imperial territories. Roughly 98% are assigned to basic labor positions. Elena's eyes widened. 50 million? And almost all of them are being underutilized. She turned to Vorthak with an expression of excitement and concern. Your Majesty, do you realize what this means? You're sitting on the largest reservoir of untapped intellectual potential in galactic history. Explain. Elena began pacing, her mind clearly racing. If even a fraction of those 50 million humans have capabilities similar to Marcus or Sarah or myself, the technological advances they could contribute would be extraordinary. We could solve energy shortages, revolutionize transportation, develop new defensive technologies, create breakthrough medical treatments, optimize agricultural systems. She paused, looking directly at the Emperor. Your Majesty, you could transform the entire galactic empire into something unprecedented, not through conquest or force, but through innovation and efficiency. Vorthak felt the ground shifting beneath his feet again. Elena wasn't just describing technological advancement. She was outlining the complete transformation of imperial civilization. And she was presenting it as an obvious, logical step that any rational leader would take. But, she continued more thoughtfully, this would require significant changes to current social and administrative structures. You need to reevaluate how humans are perceived and utilized throughout the empire. It would be a massive undertaking. Are you suggesting that humans should be elevated to positions of authority? Elena looked surprised by the question. Authority? No, Your Majesty. I'm suggesting that humans should be allowed to contribute their capabilities in ways that benefit the empire as a whole. Whether that involves authority would depend on the specific roles and responsibilities involved. Her response was remarkably mature and diplomatic. She wasn't seeking power or privilege. She was simply advocating for efficient resource utilization on a galactic scale. As Vorthak considered her words, a new realization struck him. Elena and her fellow humans weren't just intellectually gifted. They were thinking in terms of improvement and optimization rather than domination or revenge. Despite centuries of subjugation, their first instinct was to make things better for everyone. Elena, he said slowly, what would you need to properly assess the capabilities of humans throughout the empire? Access to personnel files, communication systems to conduct interviews, and probably a team of evaluators who could help identify specific skill sets and interests. Consider it done. As Elena began planning what amounted to a comprehensive revolution in imperial human resources, Vorthak realized that his empire was about to change in ways that no military victory could achieve. The question was whether the established power structure could adapt to a reality where humans were recognized as equals rather than servants. Outside the laboratory windows, the sons of Dracarys Prime continued their eternal dance, unaware that the conversation taking place below was reshaping the destiny of trillions of beings across the galaxy. 2 weeks after Elena began her empire-wide human assessment project, the results were beyond anything Emperor Vorthak had imagined possible. The conference room in his private chambers had been converted into a command center with holographic displays showing data streams from across the galactic empire. The preliminary numbers are staggering, Your Majesty, Elena reported, standing before a three-dimensional star map dotted with status indicators. She wore a new uniform, not the royal regalia of nobility, but a practical work outfit that marked her as a special imperial advisor. We've contacted roughly 2 million humans across 400 different installations, and the pattern is consistent everywhere. Admiral Zephyx, looking increasingly uncomfortable with each briefing, shifted his blue scales nervously. Your Majesty, perhaps we should consider the implications of these findings. The implications, Vortex said quietly, are exactly what I want to understand. Continue, Elena. Elena gestured to the holographic display, which zoomed in on a particular sector. Battle Station Omega, where Marcus is now serving as Chief Defensive Engineer, has increased its defensive capabilities by 340%. Energy efficiency is up 200%, and they've developed 3 entirely new defensive technologies that our military analysts are calling revolutionary. The display shifted to another location. Industrial Complex Zeta 7 has increased production efficiency by 400% since Sarah Williams was reassigned to their engineering division. She's eliminated power losses that were costing the Empire millions of energy credits annually. Location after location appeared on the display, each showing dramatic improvements in efficiency, capability, and innovation. Food production facilities with optimized growing systems. Research stations with breakthrough discoveries. Transport hubs with revolutionary logistic solutions. The pattern is universal, Elena continued. Humans working in appropriate positions are generating innovations at a rate approximately 40 times higher than previous imperial standards. And we've only reassigned about 3% of the total human population so far. Commander Raxos cleared his throat. Your Majesty, we're receiving complaints from some sector administrators. They're concerned about the rapid changes to established procedures. What kind of complaints? Vortex asked. Governor Thaxon of the Outer Mining Consortium is reporting that his human workers have completely redesigned the extraction systems on 12 different worlds. Production is up 800%, but he claims the new technologies are too complex for his existing staff to understand. Elena's expression grew thoughtful. That's a training issue, not a technology problem. I could develop educational programs that would help the existing staff adapt to the improved systems. That's not the point, Admiral Zephix interjected. Governor Thaxon is concerned about authority structures. These humans are making decisions and implementing changes without proper oversight. Elena turned to face the Admiral directly. Admiral, respectfully, the humans are making improvements to inefficient systems. The oversight question is administrative, not technological. And what happens when these humans realize they're more capable than their supposed superiors? Admiral Zephix's scales had darkened to deep blue, a sign of significant stress among his species. What happens when 50 million humans understand that they've been artificially suppressed for centuries? The question hung in the air like a challenge. It was the fear that had been lurking beneath every report, every success story, every breakthrough innovation. The Empire had built its entire social structure on the assumption of dragon-born superiority. If that assumption was false, Admiral, Elena said calmly, may I ask what you think humans would do with that realization? Rise up, rebel. Seek revenge for centuries of subjugation. Elena looked genuinely surprised. Why would they do that? Because that's what any intelligent species would do under those circumstances. Is it? Elena moved to the holographic display and called up communication logs. Admiral, we've been in contact with thousands of humans over the past 2 weeks. We've explained the assessment project, the changes in their assignments, and the recognition of their capabilities. Would you like to hear some of their responses? Without waiting for an answer, Elena activated an audio file. A human voice filled the room. I'm grateful for the opportunity to work on propulsion systems. I've had ideas for improving efficiency for years, but I never thought anyone would be interested in hearing them from someone like me. This is exciting. Another voice. You mean I can actually contribute to the research projects instead of just cleaning the laboratories? That's wonderful. I've noticed so many ways the experiments could be improved. A third voice. My supervisor wants me to redesign the entire manufacturing process. I'll do my best. I just want to help make things work better. Elena, stop the recordings. Admiral, in 2 weeks of assessments, we've received exactly 0 requests for revenge, retaliation, or elevated social status. Every single human we've contacted has responded with gratitude for the opportunity to contribute and enthusiasm about making improvements. That could be deception, Admiral Zephyx insisted. They might be hiding their true intentions. Admiral, Emperor Vorthak spoke for the first time in several minutes. Do you truly believe that millions of humans across the Empire are engaged in a coordinated deception sophisticated enough to fool our intelligence networks? It's possible. Or, Elena interjected gently, it's possible that humans are genuinely motivated by curiosity, improvement, and contribution rather than dominance and revenge. The Emperor studied the holographic displays, showing success story after success story across the Empire. Elena, in your assessment, what do humans actually want? Elena considered the question carefully. Based on our communications, most humans want 3 things: the opportunity to use their abilities productively, the respect that comes from making meaningful contributions, and the knowledge that their work is making things better for everyone. Not power, not authority over other species. Some humans might be interested in leadership roles if they were well suited for them, but that seems to be true for any species. The vast majority just want to do interesting, useful work and be recognized for their contributions. Admiral Zephyx made a sound of frustration. Your Majesty, you're talking about fundamentally restructuring the social order of the entire galactic empire based on a word of a single human. No, borta corrected quietly. I'm talking about restructuring the empire based on demonstrable results from thousands of humans whose capabilities have been systematically ignored for centuries. The holographic display updated with new data streams, showing real-time efficiency improvements across dozens of Imperial facilities. Every indicator was trending sharply upward as humans were reassigned to appropriate roles. Your Majesty, Elena said carefully, there's something else we need to discuss. The humans we've contacted have begun talking to each other through standard communication channels. They're sharing ideas, collaborating on solutions, building on each other's innovations. And the rate of advancement is accelerating exponentially. When humans work together on problems, they don't just add their capabilities, they multiply them. We're seeing breakthrough technologies developed in days that might normally take years. Commander Raxos stepped forward. Your Majesty, our intelligence networks are reporting unusual activity in several sectors. Humans working on similar projects are somehow coordinating their efforts across vast distances, creating improvements that affect multiple installations simultaneously. Elena nodded enthusiastically. Exactly. They're thinking systemically. Instead of optimizing individual facilities, they're optimizing entire networks of facilities as integrated systems. The efficiency gains are remarkable, but the security implications... Admiral Zephyx began. What security implications? Elena asked. They're making Imperial systems work better. They're strengthening the Empire, not undermining it. You're describing a transformation of the Empire's technological base that's happening faster than our administrative systems can track, the Admiral replied. What happens when these humans know more about our infrastructure than we do? Elena looked puzzled by the question. Then, we learn from them? Admiral, knowledge isn't a zero-sum resource. When humans develop better technologies or more efficient systems, that knowledge can be shared with everyone. And what if they decide to share that knowledge with enemies of the empire? The question seemed to genuinely confuse Elena. Why would they do that? The empire is their home now. Why would they want to harm their own communities? The conversation was interrupted by an urgent communication signal. The holographic image of Governor Merrick's appeared, his golden scales bright with excitement. Your Imperial Majesty, I apologize for the interruption, but I have extraordinary news. The humans at Research Installation Gamma have achieved faster-than-light communication. The conference room fell silent. Faster-than-light communication was theoretical technology that the Empire's best scientists had deemed impossible. Explain, Vorthack commanded. They've developed a method of quantum entanglement communication that allows instantaneous information transfer across any distance. They tested it successfully between our installation and Research Station Delta in the Proxima system. The implications for empire-wide coordination are revolutionary. Elena finished softly. Your Majesty, this could connect every facility in the Empire in real time. The efficiency gains alone. She trailed off, but everyone in the room understood the implications. Real-time communication across galactic distances would transform everything. Military coordination, resource management, research collaboration, administrative efficiency. How long did this development take? Vorthack asked. 3 days, Your Majesty, Governor Merrick reported. From initial concept to successful testing. 3 days. Technology that could reshape galactic civilization had been developed by human researchers in 3 days. As the communication ended, Emperor Vorthack looked around the conference room at his advisors. Admiral Zephix appeared pale and shaken. Commander Raxos was frantically taking notes. Elena was already studying the technical specifications of the communication system, probably seeing ways to improve it. Elena, Vorthack said finally, in your professional opinion, what would happen if we accelerated the human assessment and reassignment project to cover the entire empire within the next 6 months? Elena's eyes lit up with excitement. Your Majesty, based on current trends, we could see empire-wide efficiency improvements of over 1,000%. Energy problems solved, transportation revolutionized, manufacturing optimized, research accelerated, food production perfected. She paused, looking thoughtful. We could create the most advanced, efficient, and prosperous civilization in galactic history. And the humans would be content with this arrangement. Your Majesty, from everything I've observed, humans would be thrilled to contribute to such an achievement. As Emperor Vorthack looked out at the stars beyond his palace windows, he realized he faced a choice that would define not just his reign, but the future of galactic civilization itself. He could continue with the traditional power structures that had served the Empire for millennia, or he could embrace a transformation that could make his empire the greatest force for progress the galaxy had ever seen. The question was whether he had the courage to trust his empire's future to the very beings his civilization had always considered the least significant species in known space. 6 months later, Emperor Vorthack stood on the highest spire of his palace, looking out at a transformed galaxy. The decision to implement the empire-wide Human Integration Initiative had been the most controversial command of his 3,000-year reign, but the results spoke louder than any political opposition. Your Majesty. Elena approached from behind, carrying a data crystal that glowed with the light of compiled achievements. She no longer moved with the nervous deference of a servant, but with the confident stride of someone who had helped reshape galactic civilization. The final integration reports are complete. Vorthack turned to face the human who had become his most trusted advisor. Tell me, Elena activated a holographic display that filled the air around them with stars representing every world in the Empire. Each star pulsed with different colors, indicating various metrics of success. 47 million humans have been reassigned to positions matching their capabilities, Elena reported. Average efficiency improvements across all sectors exceed 1,200%. We've eliminated resource waste empire-wide, solved the chronic energy shortages, and developed technologies that seemed impossible 6 months ago. The display zoomed in on specific achievements. Agricultural worlds now produced enough food to sustain populations 3 times their current size. Industrial complexes operated with near-perfect efficiency. Research installations were generating breakthrough discoveries weekly rather than annually. The military improvements are particularly impressive, Elena continued. Admiral Zefix's fleet now possesses defensive capabilities that could repel invasions from civilizations 10 times our previous strength. But, more importantly, our propulsion technologies are so advanced that we can reach any point in the galaxy within days rather than months. Vorthax studied the data with satisfaction tinged by amazement. And the social integration? How have the other species adapted to these changes? Elena's expression grew thoughtful. That's been the most interesting development, Your Majesty. Initially, there was significant resistance from some quarters. Nobles worried about status, administrators concerned about authority, military officers uncertain about chain of command. But the practical benefits have been so overwhelming that opposition has largely evaporated. She gestured to another section of the display, showing social metrics across different species. Governor Thaxon, who was one of the most vocal critics, now requests human advisors for every major project. Admiral Zefix has promoted 3 humans to senior positions in the fleet command structure. Even the Cerebralite Science Council has begun collaborating with human researchers on a regular basis. Because the results are undeniable, Vorthack observed. Exactly. It's difficult to argue with success on this scale. Elena moved to a new section of the display, but there have been some unexpected developments, such as the humans aren't just improving existing systems. They're creating entirely new categories of technology. We now have dimensional engineering capabilities that allow us to build megastructures in folded space. Our medical advances have extended lifespans for all species by an average of 30%. We've developed ecological restoration techniques that can terraform dead worlds in months instead of centuries. The scope of advancement was staggering. In 6 months, human integration had advanced the Empire's technological capabilities by what should have taken millennia of normal development. But the most significant change, Elena continued, is philosophical. The Empire has shifted from a conquest-based expansion model to a development-based growth model. Instead of subjugating new worlds, we're being approached by other civilizations requesting to join the Empire voluntarily. This caught Vorthack's attention completely. Voluntary integration? 17 different star nations have formally requested Imperial membership in the past month alone. They're not seeking protection or military alliance. They want access to our technological developments and the efficiency improvements we can offer their societies. Elena called up communications from various alien ambassadors. Voice after voice expressed the same sentiment. Joining the Empire was no longer seen as subjugation, but as an opportunity for unprecedented advancement and prosperity. Your Majesty, Elena said carefully, we're receiving inquiries from civilizations that were previously hostile to imperial expansion. They're asking if we would consider helping them optimize their systems and integrate their populations into our development model. the Andromedan Confederation, among others. Apparently, word has spread about our transformation. The galaxy is taking notice of what we've achieved. Vorthak considered this development. The Empire was becoming a force for galactic advancement rather than simply galactic domination. It was a fundamental shift in the nature of imperial power. Elena, in your assessment, what's the long-term trajectory of these changes? Elena paused, clearly considering the implications of her answer. Your Majesty, if current trends continue, within 5 years we could have integrated most of the major galactic civilizations into a cooperative development network. Within 10 years, we could begin serious projects like galactic infrastructure development, intergalactic exploration, or even dimensional travel to parallel universes. The scope of her vision was breathtaking. Elena wasn't just thinking in terms of improving the current empire. She was envisioning a future where the empire became the foundation for galactic civilization itself. And the humans? How do they view these developments? They're excited about the possibilities, but also remarkably focused on practical implementation. They're not interested in ruling the galaxy. They want to optimize it. Elena smiled slightly. Yesterday, I received a proposal from a group of human engineers who want to begin construction of a galactic transportation network that would connect every inhabited world through dimensional fold space tunnels. They estimate it would reduce travel time between any 2 points in the galaxy to under an hour. Is such a project even possible? According to their preliminary calculations, yes. The engineering challenges are significant, but not insurmountable with our current technology base. Elena paused, looking amused. They presented it as a modest infrastructure improvement project. Vorthak found himself laughing, something he hadn't done in centuries. The idea that reshaping galactic transportation could be considered a modest project perfectly captured the human approach to problem solving. Your Majesty, Elena continued more seriously, there's one more development you should know about. The humans have begun what they're calling the Galactic Optimization Project. They're working together across all sectors to identify and address systemic inefficiencies on a galactic scale. Without authorization, they don't see it as requiring authorization. From their perspective, they're just doing their jobs more effectively. But the scope is comprehensive. Elena activated a new display showing interconnected systems spanning the entire galaxy. They're treating the entire galactic empire as a single, integrated system that can be optimized as a whole. And their conclusions? That we could increase overall galactic prosperity by factors of hundreds or thousands through better coordination and resource allocation. They're developing plans for ecological restoration projects, economic optimization systems, and resource distribution networks that could eliminate poverty and environmental degradation throughout the galaxy. Vorthak stared at the display, trying to comprehend the scope of what Elena was describing. The humans weren't just improving individual systems. They were reimagining galactic civilization itself. Elena, he said slowly, 6 months ago, you were a servant assigned to clean my chambers. Now you're describing projects that could transform the nature of galactic civilization. How do you feel about these changes? Elena considered the question seriously. Grateful, Your Majesty, not just for my own opportunities, but for the chance to contribute to something meaningful. When I see problems that could be solved, inefficiencies that could be addressed, possibilities that could be realized, I feel compelled to work on them. That's just how my mind works. And you believe other humans share this perspective? All the evidence suggests they do. We're not seeking power or dominance. We're seeking the satisfaction that comes from making things work better. As Vorthak looked out at the stars, He realized that his empire had become something unprecedented in galactic history. It was no longer just a political entity. It was a force for systematic improvement and optimization on a scale that had never been attempted. Your Majesty, Elena said quietly, thank you for giving us the chance to show what we could contribute. I know the decision wasn't easy. Elena, Vorthak replied, I should be thanking you. You've shown me that true power isn't about domination or control. It's about creating conditions for everyone to reach their potential. 6 months ago, he had returned from war expecting to find his empire exactly as he had left it. Instead, he had discovered that the most profound transformation in galactic history had been waiting in his own chambers, disguised as a simple servant with a curious mind and a talent for solving problems. As the twin suns of Dracarys Prime set behind them, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson, Emperor Vorthak and his human advisor stood together, looking out at a galaxy full of possibilities that seemed to grow larger and more exciting with each passing day. In the distance, construction had begun on the first galactic transportation hub, a project that 6 months ago would have been impossible, but now seemed like an obvious next step in the continuing optimization of galactic civilization. The age of human integration had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same.